Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you are those who learn the Qur'an and teach it to others. This is one of the many ahadith which show us the merit and the great virtue of reading the Qur'an. From those ahadith which discuss and inform us and remind us of the great virtues and the great blessings when it comes to reciting the Qur'an, is that where the Prophet ﷺ said, اقرأوا القرآن فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه. He said, read the Qur'an, for surely on the day of judgment it's going to come as an intercessor for its companions, for those people who busy themselves in reading the Qur'an. Now, as we know, reading the Qur'an has great virtues and great benefits to it. But this is not the greatest benefit, but rather there's something greater than merely reciting the Qur'an, and that is pondering over the Qur'an. As Allah says in the Qur'an, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah says that this is a blessed book which we have revealed to you. لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. So its verses may be pondered over. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. And so that the people of intellect may be reminded. So from this verse we understand that the whole purpose of the Qur'an being revealed was not just merely to be recited, but at the same time to be pondered over, to be understood and to be acted upon. So in acting upon this, inshallah, I'd like to take one single verse that every single one of us here knows and has memorized and reads frequently, inshallah, and try to understand some aspects of this verse. And that verse is where Allah says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. That, oh Allah, it is you who we worship alone, and it is you alone who we seek aid and assistance and help from. Now there's a few points that I'd like to remind myself and the brothers here today about this one single verse. And the first thing that I mentioned is that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim, may Allah be pleased with him, he mentioned that I used to hear Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him, constantly saying that this verse here is the cure to the diseases of the heart, to the many different diseases that we have of the heart and the soul. Then this verse cures that. And in particular, he mentioned that this verse in particular is the cure to arrogance and to pride and to insincerity. How is this so? That is because when we say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, oh Allah, you alone we worship, then this removes insincerity and this cures the disease of insincerity. Because you are reminding yourself that, oh Allah, I am worshipping you and you alone. Every act of worship, anything that we say, anything that we do this with the intention that this is ibadah and all ibadah is for Allah and Allah alone. So this is how it cures insincerity. At the same time, the next part of the verse is وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And you alone we seek aid, help and assistance from. And this removes arrogance and pride in all of its different forms. And that is because you find that when we are reminding ourselves so frequently that, oh Allah, it is you whose help I need to be successful in anything that I do, then of course this is going to remove any pride and any arrogance that one has in his heart. If you're in need of Allah, then why is it that we have pride and arrogance? And this is similar to what Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara'u ila Allah wallahu al-ghaniyul hamid. That all mankind, surely it is you who is in need of Allah, and Allah, He is al-ghani, free of all need, al-hamid, worthy of all praise. The second thing that I mentioned about this verse is that when it comes to al-isti'ana and ibadah, seeking Allah's aid and His assistance and complete servitude, worshipping Him, then surely this is from the most important aspects of our religion. The most important aspects of our religion. This is why you find in Surah al Fatihah, the opening of the Qur'an, all the different things that Allah could have mentioned, He gives us this message for us to take away. For every single thing that we do in our lives, we have to remind ourselves of this, the importance of worshipping Him and complete servitude and asking for His aid and His assistance in anything that we do. For surely if Allah does not aid or assist anything, then that will be void of any blessing and any success. Also from the benefits of this verse is that Allah, He mentions two things, al-ibadah and isti'ana, as we mentioned. Allah mentions ibadah, worshipping Him. And at the same time, He mentions seeking aid and assistance from Him and Him alone. From this we understand that the utmost goal in the believer's life is worshipping Allah, because worship came first in the ayah. And at the same time, whatever we do, we need, and I mention again, we need to ask Allah for His aid and His assistance for everything that we do to be successful. To be successful. The next benefit that I remind myself with and the brothers here today is that why do we use we in this verse? In the context of this verse, Allah says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. So why is the word we used? And the scholars gave a number of explanations. The first one was that this is of course referring to the plural, that for you and the rest of the ummah. For you and the rest of the ummah, showing the importance of keeping the rest of the ummah in our du'as. At the same time, other scholars mentioned that it is the royal we. The royal we is being used here even if you're worshipping Allah alone. If you're praying alone and you still use the same term, the royal we. Why is that being used? That is because for us to understand the time where you're going to have true sharaf and true respect is when you are busy in the worship of Allah. It doesn't matter what you may be doing, whatever kind of position or status that you have, but the time where you're going to have true respect and true honor is when you are busy worshipping Allah. And then other scholars mentioned that this is because it is more befitting and it's more humble to use the word we in this particular context. The last benefit that I remind myself and the brothers here with is that way Allah, He refers to the Prophet ﷺ, the most important and the most virtuous times in his life, as his slave, showing us the importance of complete servitude to Allah, and that nothing takes precedence when it comes to singling out Allah with all acts of worship. Some examples of this is when revelation started. When revelation started, Allah mentions in the beginning of Surah Kahf, He says, Alhamdulillahi alladhi anzala ala abdihi al-kitab. All praise is due to Allah who has revealed the Qur'an to His slave. This is the most blessed and most important time in the Prophet's life, and he mentions the word slave, reminding him of the importance and reminding us all of the importance of al-ibadah. And the very last point is that at the time when the Prophet ﷺ became stressed and he became hurt at what the people were saying about him, what was the solution that Allah gave to him? Something for us all to take away into our lives, is that Allah advised him with worshipping Him, where He says, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. At the end of Surah Hijr, Allah says, and surely we know, O Muhammad ﷺ, that which they say about you and the lies that they spread about you, it causes you sadness. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُمْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ. But give praise and thanks and be from the people who make sajda often. وَأْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. And worship your Lord up until the certainty of death comes to you. So in these verses we understand that Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ, we know that you are hurt and you are upset about that which is happening. But what was the solution to remove this depression and anxiety? It was to worship Allah. And surely Allah knows best.